And all this can sound like a big conspiracy theory, but we no longer rely on media to feed us their propaganda, so we see these outside sources coming, and it's easy to look at the world right now and realize, this could be the truth. And again, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but I like to be a realist that looks at the situation and says, what's going on? This is the Better Man Channel, where we choose truth, the ultimate truth. We seek to better ourselves, to remove ourselves from the lies, the deceptions, and even misconceptions that we've bought into so that we can live that sovereign, free life. What would you feel like if you came to know that someone that you trusted had been lying to you forever, been deceiving you, been manipulating you? And maybe we've been there. We've been in a position where someone we trusted, someone we cared about, lied to us, deceived us. It ripped our heart out. It ripped our trust away. On a larger scale, in a more general sense, we see that happening today with government and all these goings on that are happening currently. We're coming to realize and waking up that, hey, maybe the government doesn't have my best interest at heart. Maybe they've manipulated me into consenting to things that aren't necessarily in my best interest. We see this going on. We see different classes, different races, different identities, everybody pitted against each other in this chaotic collapse of civilization. We as men need to step outside of that nonsense and begin to become aware of what's truly going on. Quit watching that magician maneuver us into following his hand in the direction. We got to be aware of that sleight of hand and see what's going on. So we're going to talk about maybe something that borderlines conspiracy theory, and you say, oh man, that's not for me. I don't want to get involved in politics or government. Here's the deal. If you want to be a man of freedom, if you want to be a man that claims your life and restore your autonomy over your direction, you have to be aware of politics and government. Because I guarantee you, even though you may not be interested in it, government and politics is involved in your life. If we want to take back true sovereignty, to have our voice, we have to get involved, or at the very least, be aware. And so I was watching this video earlier, and it brought up some very essential truths that we need to be aware of. And so it got me started, or I started thinking about Niccolo Machiavelli, right? Is that how you say it? Niccolo Machiavelli. He's to many considered the father of political science, studying politics and government. And he was around in the 1400s, 1500s, an author, a philosopher, a historian, but again, known for almost the father of political science, studying history and politics and what it was made up of and what drove that force of politics. And so I was looking at some quotes, and the first quote that stuck with me is that it's better to be feared than loved because you can't be both. Right? And think about it. Think about a government. Not everybody's going to love the government. You can't make someone love you, but it's a lot easier to make them fear you. It's a lot easier to establish fear, kind of like that bully, right? The bully tells the little kid, just give me $1 every day and I'll leave you alone. And so we fear him, but if we'll just pay him a little due, he'll leave us alone. And we can see that as the government. They kind of bully us into our consent, but for the most part, they give us a little freedom and we're okay with it. But we still have kind of some fear in the back of the head of what they could do. His second quote is that politics is no relation to morals, right? Politics is amoral. It has no sense of good, bad, right, wrong. It's just what benefits that government, that policy, their agenda. Politics is no relative to morals. And then there's a third quote that I came across, and this is what I want to grab a hold of, and this is what I want you to grab a hold of, and a little hope for us is that there's double pleasure in the deceiver, or the one that's deceived beginning to deceive the deceiver. There's a double pleasure in that. And we, for too long, have been manipulated, lied to by media, by whatever, and to believing what they would have us to believe. But there's no greater pleasure than those that have been deceived to begin to deceive the deceiver. And I think that's where we're currently in. People are waking up. They're saying, hey, something's not right. We want our freedom. We want the ability to control our own lives. I don't need any of your nonsense going on in my life. And so in this little documentary that I was watching, it was saying that war, it's crucial, right? And a lot of times we don't think that. We just think war's evil. We don't need it. But war has throughout time been a necessary evil, because war creates an us and them. And war unites the us so that they're in congruence with their beliefs, their policies. And I want you to think of it like this. America, we're kind of based on freedom. That's our policy. That's what we believe. We're willing to go to war for that, and it unites us into this little cohesive little nation. Freedom's our policy, but we back that up with war. Why are we a strong nation? Why have we always been strong? Because we've had a strong military. We're able to back up our ideals. You can't have a policy without the backbone to back it up. And so we're strong in war. And then you can't have war without an admirable policy, right? If we didn't have that idea of freedom and we'd fight for freedom, that kind of patriotism that a lot of us have and possess and should, if we didn't have that, we wouldn't be going to war or willing to go to war to back that up. But we're coming to the knowledge that we're not backing that up necessarily for our freedom. We're backing it up for their agenda. So in this documentary, it talks about war provides all these resources, right? We have to create new technology. We have to create tanks and bullets and all the armor for the soldiers. So it increases the supply. We start manufacturing products for that. So we're gaining financially from it, and we're kind of united from it. But there's still this fear, because it's better to have them fear you than them love you. So we have fear. War, it could attack us at any moment, but we're kind of united because we're one country. We want our freedom. And yet we're competing against those other nations to have better technology. So we're creating resources and finances, not necessarily for us, but those that are the big corporations that are creating those, and those politicians that are backed by the bureaucrats and all the corporations. So war has always kind of been not only necessary, but it's been a financial gain to keep those in the elite at the elite, and to keep us at the bottom in kind of that fear, where the fear-mongering media has pressed that upon us about, oh, this many people were dead and this many war and they're coming at you. And so we see a movement towards peace because we've came to technological advances where, man, at a press of a button, we could just all blow each other up. And so governments and elite and the powers that be are recognizing this. And we see the establishment of the United Nations, I don't know what, 40s or 50s. And they start trying to come up with some policies that we could begin to implement that would remove us from this war-torn idea, but still be able to implement fear and a dependency upon your governments, but where we're not blowing each other up. Right? You're following me? We still have to have fear so that we depend upon our government and that we know our place, but we need peace before the whole world just is done in. And so we see this kind of Cold War. Not everybody's blowing up, but it's the fear of what could happen. So we keep them at fear, but we keep them united as us, them. It's us against them. And I remember stories of my mother even, saying they had to do drills where, if bombs were going to be dropped, that they could protect themselves. So it was instilling this fear. No bombs were ever dropped. It just instilled in a whole nation there's fear, and it's us against them. And so there were technological advances in warfare and weapons. And so we seen financial gain from that. Corporations, government elites were still profiting. But then that kind of grew to an end, because everybody started realizing, looking at the sky, no bombs have been dropped yet. So, I'm going to live my life. No fear. Who cares what they're doing over there in the Soviet Union? And that wore off. And so what came next? Well, we've seen a movement towards climate change, right? Oh, the world's going to end. We've got to get on this. And some things backing that is, okay, we can't go to war with other nations for their oil, and there's going to be peace in that. So what can we do? Well, climate change and all this pollution and all the gases that it's destroying the world. Let's go electric. So we still have fear. We're still establishing that fear-mongering tactic that, oh my God, the world's going to end because there's climate change. So the people are going to be in fear on a universal level. Everybody will be scared. And that's kind of unite the world in that United Nations order, that one world government, and then it's going to create technological advances. So there'll still be some financial gain, some technology going, because we're going to create electric cars, we're going to go solar panels, we're going to create all these things that help the government stay rich, big corporations stay rich. But then that wore off because the world might end in 1,000,000 years. So what? I won't even know my great 1,000 times over children. Who cares? That wore off. And so we see, and then that came, we had September 11th and then we had ISIS, and everybody was afraid that the terrorists were going to bomb us and cut our heads off. And then, that kind of wore off. And then we moved towards COVID, and COVID is the big one now. It's created this universal fear where the United Nations can come in and be that one world government. So there's fear, and we're looking for someone to give us the answer because we've surrendered our sovereignty. We've surrendered our freedom. We've given it to the government. So we're looking for them to, what's the answer? And so it's creating technological advances too. We're doing the big pharma medications, and then all these people that are spending time at home, they're surely innovating something, and TikTok and YouTube Shorts has blown up. So now not only that, but then we have all these people that can use that to send these ads, constantly bombarding with whatever they would have to sell us, right? And you see Facebook going to this metaverse where we're all going to be connected into that. So we're all dependent upon them. Still this fear base of, oh my God, I could get COVID and die, but I still got to keep getting these shots. And so Big Pharma's making their money. We're still in fear. And now we even see people pitted against each other. This class is saying this class is racist. This class is saying you're oppressive. And we're looking for government, the ones that we supposedly trust and believe, to come in and mediate that, right? So this party is promised by the government this, and they're promised by this. And again, politics is no relative to morality. They don't care. They'll lie to you just to get their agenda. And all this can sound like a big conspiracy theory, but we no longer rely on media to feed us their propaganda. So we see these outside sources coming, and it's easy to look at the world right now and realize, this could be the truth. And again, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but I like to be a realist that looks at the situation and says, what's going on? It's no doubt. How do you stay in charge? By fear. Like that bully. We all know them. They put you in fear. So yeah, you give them $1 and they leave you alone somewhat. You don't have absolute freedom, or you wouldn't be giving them $1. But that's a good example for government. They're that bully. We pay them. We fear them, and they give us a little bit of freedom, and we tend to our business. They tend to their agenda of collecting from everybody. And we live in a state today where government has stolen our sovereignty in this very, very subtle, progressive, decade after decade maneuver. It's been a chess game to them, man. And we've slowly surrendered our sovereignty. We've slowly surrendered our rights. And it's almost so subtle that one day we just wake up in the cage and we don't realize how we got there. Again, you may not be concerned with politics or government, but I promise you they're concerned with you. Part of this channel, the theme of this, is to be aware. As men, think of the man of antiquity. It's always been aware of their parameters. What was other tribes doing? Where were they? Where was the lion, the bear, the wolf that could come in and steal me and mine? So we set up our perimeters. We knew our enemies. I guarantee you nothing has changed. We always will have an enemy. And we have to be aware of that. If you want to live your best life, if you want to be prepared when the unexpected happens, COVID happens, you lose your job, are you going to be financially prepared? Are you going to be mentally prepared to handle that? Or are you just going to crash? Are you going to be physically strong if it comes down to that barbaric beast mode masculinity that you need? Again, the themes of this channel on the surface level, you may not think that they could go in hand with some chaotic collapse of the civilization, but they very much do. Are we mentally prepared for the unexpected? Are we physically prepared for the unexpected? Are we financially prepared for the unexpected? We have to be aware of politics and government because they are involved in your life. And we can't be susceptible to that fear-mongering propaganda that they've been feeding us for generations. And we can't be susceptible to the lies and the deception anymore. Machiavelli said there's double pleasure in the deceiver beginning to deceive the deceiver. Or do I have that wrong? There's double pleasure in the deceived beginning to deceive the deceiver. And so It's time that we wake up as men and reclaim some sovereignty, reclaim some freedom, begin to be aware of our surroundings. If you take nothing else from this, be aware of what's going on. Be prepared, not only for the expected, but the unexpected. Because I guarantee you, and if you've lived long enough, you've recognized that the government is the ultimate magician with the sleight of hand. They'll feed you all this BS over here and really subtly uncover something's going on over here to fit their agenda. If nothing else, I want you to take that. Let's be aware of that. Let's be men that reclaim sovereignty. At the very least, say, hey, we're tired of the bullshit. Tell us the truth. We can handle the truth. This isn't, 1500 where a majority of people couldn't read or write or didn't have the intelligence. We are just as intelligent. My God, look at the politicians that we have. We are just as intelligent, if not more intelligent than those elected officials in this current landscape. We can handle the truth. We can probably handle it better than you. We have better resources. We have probably better solutions than you do that actually fit the majority. It's time that we stand up. Take back what's ours. That's part of being a man. And again, you can say, I don't want to get involved with that. But politicians, governments getting involved with your life. They're setting the policies. They're setting mandates. They're creating fear-mongering. To be a true sovereign, free man is to stand up and say, no more. I'm going to live my damn life, and I'm not going to take your BS anymore. I'm going to start deceiving the deceiver, and let's see how you like it. I love you guys. Be aware of what's going on, your surroundings at all times, and you guys will hear from me next episode.